Konnichiwa and welcome. I'm your host, and today I will be explaining the story of Kaiji in under 30 minutes. Spoilers ahead, so please watch out. This video only contains the story from the anime. If I hit 500 likes on this video, I will make another video on the rest of the story. Thank you. This is Kaiji Ito, a young man trapped in a cycle of gambling and idleness. He's unemployed and has not worked a single day since New Year, until one day he is visited by this man, Endo, a debt collector, who informs Kaiji that he is responsible for a loan of 300,000 yen that he co-signed for a friend who has now disappeared. And because of absurd interest rates, Kaiji has to pay 3.5 million yen to pay off the debt. This revelation thrusts Kaiji into a state of panic and desperation. Then Endo presents Kaiji with an opportunity to participate in an underground gambling event on a ship called Espoir, organized by the powerful organization Deiya Group. With no other options, Kaiji agrees to participate. 1 month later, Kaiji goes to the Harumi Pier to board the ship of Hope, Espoir. After boarding the ship, every participant is given some money for gambling at a rate of 40%. Kaiju decides to take 10 million and they are given two envelopes along with the money, and then they all proceed to the playroom. Later, they are instructed by Hall Master Tonegawa to open the envelope. Everyone's been handed 12 cards for playing restricted rock, paper, scissors, and 3 stars that they need to save to survive. You can bet the stars for each game, and you cannot destroy or throw the cards away, forcing all the participants to play with all 12 cards in 4 hours of time. Right as time starts, people start playing, and a lot of people lose all 3 of their stars in the first few minutes. After some time, Kaiji is approached by Funai, another guy who borrowed 10 million yen before Kaiji. He suggests a proposition to Kaiji to play along with him and draw all 12 times so they can keep all 3 of their stars and survive with minimal interest. Things go well for the first 9 rounds, but in 10th round, Funai betrays Kaiji and wins a star, and then another in 11th round. Kaiji was utterly fooled and cheated by Funai. Kaiji desperately tries to take his stars back, but is put down. And now Kaiji has no other choice but to find another way out of the situation. After a while, Kaiji finds Furuhata, the same man who begged Kaiji to be his guarantor for his loan. They team up with this man, Ando, who has 2 stars and no cards. They decide to work together and collect 9 stars so all of them can get out of this situation. They have 14 million yen, 4 stars and 5 cards, 4 scissors and 1 paper. After some time, Ando borrows the only paper card and plays it in hopes of getting a star, but instead loses. But Kaiji finds a way out of this and plays someone with all of his cards to win 2 stars, leaving the group with 5 stars. Later on, it is revealed that someone tried flushing some of his cards. Kaiji realizes that they are allowed to transfer the cards or simply buy cards with money. The group decides to buy 30 rock cards to play for 8 million yen. Kaiji explains his plan to Furuhata and Ando, but after a while they realize that some other group is also hoarding paper cards, and as the number of scissors drop rapidly, Furuhata and Ando play their cards and lose 2 stars. Kitami, the mastermind behind hoarding the paper cards, approaches Kaiji to sell a star, but instead of buying any stars, Kaiji challenges Kitami to a death match. But Kitami is not willing to play any more than 1 game with Kaiji. Kitami agrees to play and Kaiji manages to win. Now they have 6 stars, and with time running out, the group decides to hoard paper cards as well. For getting paper cards, Kaiji approaches Kitami and takes all paper cards along with 2 million yen, as Kitami has no other choice. Now the group has 30 rocks, 5 scissors, and 34 paper cards. As time passes, Kaiji's group is rejected by everyone, and now they are forced to wait for the final moments. After some time, Funai proposes a suggestion to everyone to let him shuffle all of the remaining cards and redistribute them in order to make the game fair. Kaiji is forced to join him, having no other choice. The total does not match the board. They believe someone is hoarding the three remaining cards. After redistribution, 6 out of 13 people immediately lose their remaining stars. As time passes, with only 6 minutes remaining, Kaiji decides to play with the rest of the participants, allowing them to choose what card Kaiji plays. And Kaiji wins one of the games and loses the other two, leaving his group with 5 stars. Now, with everyone gone, Funai is forced to play against Kaiji in a losing battle. Kaiji explains that there's no Mr. X and the remaining cards were flushed by the guy. Kaiji proposes to Funai for playing a duel for 5 stars against him and explains him how they have odd number of cards. Now Funai is cornered and left with no choice but to surrender and give up 5 stars. Kaiji explains to the group that he will go down for them and would rely on them to save him from the remaining stars. Kaiji then loses and goes to the back rooms. There he meets Ishida-san and another guy who's holding money. After the game is over, Furuhata sells one of the stars, but Ando betrays them and explains to Furuhata how they can walk away with 20 million yen if they sell the stars and ditch Kaiji. Furuhata is delighted by the suggestion and decides to ditch Kaiji. Now Kaiji is stuck in the back rooms with no way out, and he has to think of something quickly before it's too late. Kaiji is struck by a sudden inspiration and he decides to start beating the guy who is about to be saved. Turns out this guy has something valuable. Kaiji decides to steal it and is finally saved. Right as Kaiji goes out, he decides to use the remaining stars to save Ishida-san, who is thankful of Kaiji for saving him. But despite clearing his outside debt of 3.85 million yen, he has now accumulated a new debt of 6.2 million yen with an annual interest rate of 18%. After 4 months, Kaiji is shown to be working in a departmental store where he's paid 900 yen an hour, which is hardly enough to pay off the interest. At this rate, it will take over a decade to pay off his debt. Kaiji is not having it. He's not motivated to work and is rather emotionally stressed. Kaiji and his colleague Sahara quit the job after being accused of stealing money, and as Kaiji goes back to his place, he's approached by Endo again, who presents him another opportunity to clear his debt in one night and explains how he's gathering up participants for the party. Yet again, Kaiji steps into the darkness to gamble to make 20 million in one night. A total of 60 participants arrive, and among them there's Kaiji, Ishida-san, and Sahara. All of them are divided into 5 groups of 12 people each, and they are playing Brave Man Road as rich people bet on them. Kaiji refuses to push the person ahead of him and gets disqualified, but Sahara gets first place and Ishida-san ends up getting second place. They receive tickets for 20 million and 10 million, and because there was only one winner for 5th race, an extra ticket can be given to anyone. As they go to get their prizes, they are welcomed by Tonegawa yet again, and Tonegawa explains to them they have to take part in another event to win the money, but this time it's much higher and the bridge is electrocuted, so falling here would mean certain death. Despite this, Kaiji decides to continue and is given the extra ticket. As both groups start, it does not take them a long time to realize that it's way more difficult than previous events. Only a few minutes in and people start falling, one after another, until there's only Sahara, Kaiji, and Ishida-san remain. But Ishida-san gives up and decides to give his 10 million ticket to Kaiji and falls silently off the bridge. Now there's only 2 people remaining, Kaiji and Sahara. As Sahara gets closer, he makes a run for it and makes it to the ledge. But did he really win? No, the ledge wasn't the finish line, and Sahara falls to his death from the ledge as the gust of wind hits him. Now Kaiji is alone, mourning the death of Sahara, and while trying to figure out what he should do next, he finally realizes there's a glass bridge, the path to survival. He takes it and wins the race. Tonegawa congratulates him for winning, but refuses to give Kaiji the prize money as Kaiji had asked them to cut the power so they could survive, and he has lost all rights to win any prize. As Kaiji struggles to make Tonegawa pay the prize money, the president of Teiya Group, Kazutaka Hyodo, makes an appearance explaining how Kaiji should be given another chance and proposes to Kaiji to play e-card game against Tonegawa. Kaiji, not wanting to leave empty-handed, decides to play and is taken to the playroom. E-card game is a card game played between two people with 10 cards. There's 8 citizen cards, 1 emperor and 1 slave card. Emperor can defeat the citizen and citizen can defeat the slave, but citizen to citizen is always a draw, making it easier to win from the emperor side but way difficult to win from the slave side. But they must switch side every 3 rounds. As they're about to play, Kaiji has to bet either his eye or his ear. Kaiji can bet 1 millimeter for 100,000 yen, but 1 millimeter would give 500,000 if Kaiji wins from slave side. With each millimeter, it will take 29 millimeter to keep his organ safe. Going any further than that would result in Kaiji losing. Tonegawa promises that he will apologize to Kaiji along with the money for the people who died because of him. As the game starts, Kaiji bets a whole centimeter in the first round as he is playing from Emperor side, and Kaiji manages to win the first and second round but loses the third round, and now Kaiji has to take the slave side. And for the fourth round, Kaiji bets 2 millimeters and loses, but despite losing, Kaiji bets 2 millimeters again on fifth round from slave side and loses yet again. Now Kaiji has lost a total of 14 millimeters, but at this moment where everyone would give up and choose to bet 1 millimeter, Kaiji bets 10 millimeters. But Kaiji loses with 6 more rounds to play, so he decides to bet 1 millimeter for 7th round, and now that he is back on Emperor side, winning should be easier, but he loses the 7th round and even the 8th round. As Kaiji struggles to win, he has given up and believes Tonegawa can really read his mind, and if Kaiji does not win at least one round, he will lose his ability to hear, but he manages to win the round. The president hits Tonegawa with his stick, calling him worthless. As Kaiji watches this, he is confused as to why would president be this mad, and soon Kaiji realizes Tonegawa shouldn't have lost as they are cheating, and he figures out that they are using the equipments on his ear to cheat. But despite figuring it out, Kaiji cannot just ask them to stop cheating, as Tonegawa will never admit it. So Kaiji has to come up with another plan for the last 2 rounds, as he only has 2 millimeters remaining. Kaiji needs a surefire way to beat Tonegawa, so he decides to bet the whole length of the equipment, betting 18 millimeter, which could lead to his death, and he devises a plan with the help of losers from Brave Man Road and punches the mirror, shattering it into pieces, and turns out Tonegawa has realized that Kaiji knows of his tricks. Soon, Kaiji comes back covering his ear with a paper towel with blood all over his head. Kaiji bats 18 millimeters and they start the 11th round, and Kaiji finally manages to win, and as Tonegawa is shocked to see this, he removes Kaiji's towel to realize that Kaiji cut off his own ear to remove the equipment. Kaiji has finally won a total of 11.1 million yen, and as they proceed to start the final round, after playing a citizen card, Tonegawa falls right into the trap of Kaiji and loses the final round. After winning, Tonegawa is incredibly happy, and the president congratulates him for winning and decides to make Tonegawa apologize on Grilling Growl, where he will have to put his head down for 10 seconds to show true sincerity. Kaiji is not happy by this punishment and has figured out that Tonegawa was just a mere pawn and the real deal is the president. As Kaiji tries to figure out a way to beat the president, he decides to make a raffle game and challenges the president. Kaiji plans on hiding a fake winning ticket in the flap so he can easily win the gamble, but the game is far too boring for the president and he proposes 3 conditions to Kaiji for playing, and Kaiji has no other option but to agree to them. The minimum amount Kaiji has to gamble will be 100 million yen. So the president makes some adjustments and suggests Kaiji to bet his four fingers, and Kaiji agrees to play. Now Kaiji is facing the president Kazutaka Hyodo. Before starting, they place the winning tickets inside the box together and then fill it up with the losing tickets. As game starts, President draws a losing ticket and now Kaiji has to draw a ticket, but he cannot find the fake winning ticket and has to draw a losing ticket instead, giving the president another chance to draw. But this time President does draw the winning ticket and defeats Kaiji. And Kaiji not only loses all of his money, he loses four of his fingers as well. And the horrifying night is finally over with Kaiji losing everything. Kaiji realizing how he could win and regrets not thinking enough during the game. But now Kaiji can only regret, and his debt has increased from 6.7 million yen to 9.5 million yen. And the first season ends here. Several months have passed. Endo is looking for Kaiji to pay the debt. Kaiji, being unaware, is delighted to see Endo and thinks Endo will help him gamble again to make money and pay off his debt. But to his surprise, Endo sends him to the underground labor camp where he's forced to work at 91,000 perika, which is 9100 yen a month for several years to pay off his debt. Kaiji receives his first payment, but he does not intend on spending any money at all, as he wants to buy a pass to go outside for one day, which costs 500,000 perika. But Otsuki approaches Kaiji, giving him a free beer so he can bait Kaiji into spending the money. And it works. Kaiji spends all of his money in just a few days. Then Otsuki makes his move and proposes to Kaiji that he could take a loan of 60,000 perika and just gamble to win more in the game Otsuki created. Chinchiro, a dice game where you play with 3 die at the same time, and the odd one of the 3 will be counted as the rolled number, and whoever rolls the highest number wins. But if all 3 die are mismatched, then they have to try again until there's a valid roll. Getting 3 mismatched rolls is an immediate loss, but there are certain rolls that will be counted as valid, and those are 4, 5, 6. In this case, the money will be doubled, and if 1, 2, 3 comes up, then player loses twice the amount they wagered, and if 1, 1, 1 comes up, the player wins 5 times the wagered amount. In this game, they will be playing against dealer, and after dealer starts, they have to go anti-clockwise, rolling one by one. When the game starts, Kaiji wins by rolling 4, 5, 6 in the first round. But as the game continues, Kaiji realizes that he does not enjoy playing small bets and wants to wager big amount of money. But right as he bets 3000 perika, he loses twice the amount. But he keeps on betting 3000 perika despite the result, and after many losses, Kaiji finally manages to win a round, leaving him at 38,000 perika. But now it's Kaiji's turn to deal, so Otsuki and another guy bets 20,000 perika each, planning to ruin Kaiji. But Kaiji wins the round, and that does not stop Otsuki. He and the same man bet another 40,000 perika, explaining how Kaiji might be running out of luck. And yet again, Kaiji rolls a 6, but Isawa rolls 4, 5, 6, and if that wasn't enough, Otsuki rolls a triple roll of 5, receiving triple the amount he wagered. Now Kaiji is completely broke and has to pay Otsuki 45,000 perika every month from his pay. After the end of second month, Kaiji has no will to try and save for a pass to go outside. But when Kaiji finds out about the disabled people working in labor camp for years, Kaiji cannot stop but try to find a way out. On the night of another Chinchiro, Miyoshi explains to Kaiji how he has figured out a pattern to win big tonight. But Kaiji is confused about Otsuki always getting good rolls. Kaiji has to figure out a way to expose Otsuki, so he decides to observe and strike at the right time. Kaiji teams up with other 45ers to defeat Otsuki and make enough for all of them to go out. As Kaiji and other 45ers save up for gambling, Kaiji finds the son of Ishida-san who is working in underground labor camp. He's living in a dreadful state, completely broken and has lost all hopes. After enduring everything for another 85 days, they have finally made enough to pay their debt and now they will receive all of their 91,000 perika. This is the night they wipe out Osaki. Kaiji finally joins the game and everyone's here to see him gamble, but Kaiji loses and has to pay 40,000 perika. Kaiji bets 1,000 perika in the second round and wins. All 45ers wait for the right moment as Kaiji has explained to them that he will join in alone at first and they need to join later. For third round, Kaiji goes all in with his 52,000 perika, and at this moment, when Otsuki agrees to play 2 rounds with no limits, Kaiji calls for 45ers and all of them join in, going all out with their 91,000 perika and making it a round for 507,000 perika. Otsuki is confused and believes Kaiji has figured out that he and his friends use magic dice, which only has 4, 5, 6 on all the faces. But to his surprise, Kaiji does not even flinch when Otsuki rolls the normal die. So Otsuki deducts that Kaiji has not figured out anything at all and goes on to roll with his magic dice. And right as Otsuki rolls, Kaiji steps up and takes the magic die and exposes Otsuki. Kaiji intends to continue and play with his special die, allowing Otsuki to play with his special die. Kaiji has only ones on his special die, and if you remember, all ones meaning a snake eye, that is 5 times the wagered amount. In just one round, Otsuki loses 2.5 million perika. Now Otsuki has to play again to finish the round, and for the second time, Kaiji and all 45ers are going all out with 3 million perika. Otsuki breaks down and is now cornered and forced to play, and he loses all of his money. Kaiji and the rest of the 45ers now have over 18 million perika, and Kaiji finally goes out with the pass, and all the 45ers give their share to Kaiji to gamble and free them. Kaiji has taken outside pass for 20 days and he has 800,000 yen left. After spending a whole day for nothing, Kaiji finally meets Sakazaki. Sakazaki takes Kaiji to a secret casino and shows him the bog, the pachinko machine costing 4,000 yen for one ball. And winning on bog will be over 700 million yen, and turns out only 2 men in the last 10 years have won on the bog, and they are none other than Tonegawa and Hyodo. Sakazaki explains to Kaiji how he needs an accomplice to beat the bog. On the day they make their move, Sakazaki manages 50 million yen to play the bog. Sakazaki explains to Kaiji that no matter what they do, it's impossible to win the jackpot fairly. So Kaiji has to exchange his magnetic can of beer with Sakazaki so he can use it to win the jackpot. But their plan fails and Sakazaki loses all of his money. And turns out Ichijo, the manager of the casino, knows about Kaiji. Sakazaki has lost a total of 43 million in one day, and Ichijo has been warned about Kaiji to not take him lightly. Kaiji goes to casino and observes the bog for hours to find a way to beat it. After observing the bog for several days, he finally finds a way to rig the whole machine. Kaiji explains his plan to Sakazaki and Sakazaki joins him, and then Kaiji goes to Endo for funds, finding out that Endo is in the same boat as them. Endo joins them and they decide to split the money 3 ways between Sakazaki, Kaiji and Endo after all the other expenses. Kaiji and Sakazaki go back to the casino to start working on their plan. Sakazaki spends the remaining 6 million he has to distract Ichijo as Kaiji walks into the manager's office to create a diversion. After losing the 6 million, Ichijo breaks the bog, which is a part of their plan, and as they do this, Ichijo punishes Kaiji by piercing his nails with a needle. Kaiji vows to show Ichijo the hell, and with that, they disappear. Several days later, The bog is repaired, and on the last day of Kaiji, they come back. For the first and the last time, Kaiji sits in front of the bog to take it down. They've done everything to increase their chances of victory, but is it going to be enough? Right as Kaiji starts, balls start slipping through the pins easily, concerning Ichijo, but to his surprise, Kaiji has done nothing to the balls. In fact, Ichijo himself made the pins loose for him. He just changed the size of equipments they use to adjust the pins, but it does not last very long as Ichijo activates the block function to stop Kaiji from winning. Unaware that Kaiji has made preparations for that as well, Kaiji burns through the money as Teja starts broadcasting him to underground labor camp. Meanwhile, after burning another 10 million yen card, Kaiji proceeds to buy the third card, and everyone, including Ichijo, is confused as to why would Kaiji waste money. After a lot of tries, he finally does it and manages to break the flippers, which allows a lot of balls to go through. And to Ichijo's surprise, they cannot do anything as long as there's someone playing because it is one of their rules. Later, it is shown that Kaiji switched the parts of balls when Casino tried to get new flippers to replace for the broken ones. But despite this, Kaiji has only 20 million yen left. After a few attempts, Kaiji starts getting balls down to third plate, but it's shown that there's no possibility of winning jackpot as third plate is rigged and the whole platform is inclined instead of being straight. But Kaiji has devised a plan to straighten the entire building and tilt it a little as to his advantage. After discovering that the land around the building is loose, they simply put a lot of weight on one side of building, but despite all the preparation, Kaiji keeps on burning the money away with no success, and he's down to his last 10 million. When Kaiji is down to his final 250 balls, Kaiji figures something out, but it's too late. He decides to borrow the last remaining 10 million yen from Endo, and after convincing Endo that they can win, Endo hands him the money, but Sakazaki is too scared to continue and he refuses to watch as Kaiji starts again with his only hope. As Kaiji keeps on playing and losing, holes are finally clogged and the balls start making down to the third plate. Right as two balls are about to enter the jackpot, Ichijo reveals his secret weapon, a wall of air around the jackpot hole. No matter how many balls are on the third plate, none will ever enter the hole, or that's what Ichijo thought. With remaining money, Kaiji keeps on going but fails and is out of money yet again. The shield of air is too strong to pierce through. Now, what will Kaiji do? And then Sakazaki comes back with another 20 million yen, and with this, Kaiji sits back to play. As Kaiji starts playing again, the entire third plate gets filled with the balls. Ichijo makes his final effort to stop Kaiji, but is put down by Endo, and then the bog for some reason starts groaning.
なんや大が鳴り出した。
And finally, one strike from another ball pushes them into the jackpot and they win. They finally win against the bog, receiving over 729 million yen. After paying his debt, they end up with 717 million yen. Endo takes another 113 million yen for the funds. They're left with 568 million. They divide it equally in three portions of 189 million each. After that, they fall asleep and Endo escapes with a massive amount from Kaiji's share as he had given Kaiji 10 million at the rate of 30% compounded every 10 minutes. Now Kaiji is left with only 61 million yen. But despite everything, Kaiji still decides to pay off the debt of all 45ers and frees Ishida-san as well. And with that, the story of Kaiji ends. The rest of the story is over 7,000 pages long, so I will be making a video on it in future. Alright, thank you so much for joining us today on another video. Please like and subscribe for more such content, and I will see you next time.